Very good. Yeah, nice. Yeah, so we've been working on this for a little while. You enjoy Mozart?
Yeah.
You did okay, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll learn that. He certainly was generous to us. So this is a great piece. So let's talk a little bit about some things in specific that are sort of Mozart. And you're coming along very, very well on this. But let's talk about a few things that I think are important things for everybody, because we all got to play these and we all get to play these. So Mozart, a couple of things that I've been told over the years that have helped an awful lot. One is to play all the 16th notes as slow as possible. Okay, which is a little weird because you get these, that's the fancy part, right? That's where you get kind of flashy. It looks like there's some flashy moments there. Is what that does then is it keeps us in place with what's going on in the accompaniment. So what does the accompaniment do most of the way through these first ones? So what are they doing? What rhythm?
The same one.
Okay, kind of. It's just sort of something kind of constantly going on. You remember what that is? Eighth notes. Okay, it's just sort of persistent all the way through, and then even Strauss one, he starts doing kind of the same thing. Well, what's that doing for you? It's setting up a subdivision that you can work with. But as we practice these, and we try very hard to get them faster, it's really easy to throw them away. So you're doing a little bit of that, and so sometimes too, you're losing some of the clarity. So don't be afraid to play it slow. Don't be afraid to play Mozart like it isn't virtuosic music. It's not virtuosic music, it's virtuosic music for hand part. But for a valve it's not quite the same thing. So you're not looking for flashy things. You're looking for pristine. What makes Mozart so incredibly good is the simplicity, the clarity, somewhat the predictability, and then the unpredictability, which he plays with us and teases us a little bit. But it's that sort of thing. So the eighth note is extraordinarily important. So while you practice this, put your metronome on the eighth note and just let that go, and then turn it off. Play the piece. Don't do it all the time. But it's sort of like working with the orchestra. So the eighth note is very important. Okay. Another thing that's very important about Mozart is the downbeat, is the bar line. Mozart's coming out of the Baroque period, bar lines are very important. What does that mean? The bar line is very important. Of course it is. That's where one is. But there's a sense in the way that you want to arrange this music. It's not dee bum. Okay, it's not dee hum because very often he delays the resolution, and it's usually on the second beat. So this is a subtle thing, but what it does is it helps you to understand the direction where your phrases need to go. Now, when you were playing this middle section, this was lovely. Lovely line. You had a really, really nice line going all the way through the problem. Now, you want to try and make a line out of that, too. And that's sort of important, and that's kind of interesting, and it's not as easy to do because it's a little more complicated, seems a little more instrumental. If it was just dee ha dee ha dee dee da dee da, but when you start putting the 16th, you start getting a little bit vertical, you start bouncing out, and instead of thinking always where the lines go. Okay, so the line has to be thought about too. So as you're maturing through this piece, this is some of the things you want to think about. Where is the sentence? Where are we going all the way through there? And truly love your little notes. Okay? Love your little notes, just like you were loving these big ones over here. Okay? That was just lovely. You were rocking with the sound. You actually opened your hand a little bit right before G. Did you notice? When you first started, you heard, okay, there's a body language thing here. I'm playing in front of all these people. I don't know whether you guys ever notice this, but quite often when you get a little bit nervous, you start covering your arm just a little bit more too. Just something like that has something to do with this. You know, that can happen. So you want to just listen really closely. And then when you got to that part, which I think you played some great job with, You just sort of open your hand and then the sound just kind of starts to fill up. So think about that a little bit more, maybe play that, and then come back over here and do these things. All right, we're going to go fast, but there's a number of little things. The mixing, the double, duple, and single tone, double tone and single tone. Do you do that at all?
No, I usually do single tone.
Yeah. And so it's kind of dirty sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you like the double tone?
Sometimes.
Mess with it. Mess with it. So di da ta 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 or di ta 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 ta. Putting the ta 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 ta. Fine combinations where you can get really comfortable mixing double and single, and then that might help to clarify some things too. Slow it up, you get, and that's also, as I was saying, all 16s can be a little bit slower. You're kind of in a hurry through those. So let's maybe think about it. Let's do that. We're going to start at letter A. I want you to think about the line. I want you to think about the bar line. And then when you get to these 16th notes, play them nice and clean and clear, not too slow, because we got to line up with all the 8th notes, but slower than what you were doing. You can, yeah, you want to try it? That's fine. Let me hear you single tone this time, but as slow as you can without losing tempo, because you're not quite ready to do the double tone again. Repeat what you're doing to practice. One more time. Go to here, then That's nice. So that's another one verse. Which is another way that we hear play. Okay, does that feel a little bit different?
Yeah.
About what the weight of these lines going to be. Okay, and those 16th notes were a little bit better. You're going to have to go back and practice some of them because you're not always putting the right fingers either. So that's another thing. That's your next level. We'll play. Okay, and then one other thing. Practice all of your rests. Practice the rests, especially in a place like this. Do you remember there's a lick like this over there? Ever seen that one before? Okay, we're talking about the one that goes up to high B flat. And you just jump right away into that. You have 4 bars, take a couple, get used to it, get set, so that one you can actually play. And I want you to start right here. Ding, bong, bong, bong. And those B flats and Fs below the staff are lower in Mozart than they are in any other piece. And not at all. It's just, have you all noticed that too? There's just something about where we're situated while we're playing Mozart, that then you come to this terribly low B flat right below middle C, which is never usually probably a problem note, and it's one that's really easy to play out of tune, play a little bit flat, doesn't quite speak. So I think you've got to realize that note is a little lower in Mozart than it is otherwise, and so what do you do in the lower range? If there are any little pivot things or something you might do, and then certainly the F's below that, and that's something to do with that over here. Alright, so we're going to do right here, and then I want you to take 2 bars rest, and then play this with a beautiful sound. But you want to feel it getting bigger. So I want you to try to make it so that the aperture gets big. Da, 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 da. Okay, see if you can feel that after class, right on that way. Okay, so that seems kind of paradoxical, doesn't it? How can you open up your aperture and get a higher note, especially the highest one of these? And that sounded beautiful. Well, it probably isn't. It's probably getting smaller, or you wouldn't be getting the note, would you? But the feeling that what we do is we overdo it. You think, I've got to go to this high note, all of a sudden I've got this 16th harmonic I have to play, and you get up to the pinch. And I think that this, that if you make it, this musical idea, opening up the note as you go higher. Also, it's just, I think a basic tenet to high range, I'm going to talk about maybe this afternoon. Basic tenet of high range is to play as low as you possibly can. Basic tenet of low range, we were talking about the Beethoven, is to play as high as you possibly can on those notes. Then you start to get the intonation to work, and we don't change that much. Okay, so that's an interesting, it'd be beautiful. I knew you had it in your face. It's just that if you, and so another reason to practice the rest is to give you a moment to set and think about these things and hear them speak correctly for that beautifully glorious moment. And then after that, each time you came in on these rests, you came in early. Okay. So my suggestion is be sure when you're practicing music with this metronome that you rest exactly the right amount of time. And do it in a practice room all the time, because you'll perform the way you play. Okay, you'll perform the way you practice, generally speaking. You play the way you practice. So that's what I'm going to suggest with that. Otherwise, this is very, very, very good stuff. Good stuff. Thank you.